Well, good morning from a somewhat wet and windy Cobh. So our plan for today, we're going to go to the Titanic Experience and then we're going to take a boat across to Spike Island. We're going to show you what there is to do here. So stick with us and we'll take you along. So the Titanic Experience is about 5 minutes walk from where the ship docks. So we're just wandering along there now. And the good thing this morning, when we were in Falmouth yesterday, it was a tendered port. So the good thing is today, at least we are docked in Cobh as well. So it just makes things a bit simpler. And it took no time at all to get off the ship. I spotted the play park down here as well, right by the terminal. So that's a good thing to do with kids. Love all the colourful buildings over there.
We hope you're enjoying this video. Please do subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our other cruise videos, including the others in our stunning Ireland, Iceland and Greenland cruise on Caribbean Princess.
Milo spotted that we are at the Titanic Experience. I don't think it even took 5 minutes to walk down here. So Jen's just noticed that we just walked a little bit further and then over here we've got the Spike Island desk, so we can head over there once we're finished in the Titanic Museum. Are we going to later, Milo?
We paid €68 for our family ticket of 2 adults and 1 child, which I thought was very reasonable when it included the boat and the tour. We headed back to the Titanic Experience now it was our time. We pre-booked our tickets in advance and it was €12 for adults and €8 for children over 3. They did also offer a 10% discount for tours before 11. When you arrive at the museum, you're given a boarding card and this has the name of one of the 123 people who boarded the Titanic from Cobh. A guide took a small group of people around the first part of the museum and this contained reconstructions of both the first and second class cabins. From inside the museum we were led to the outside area and we could see where the tenders ferried people from Cobh to the Titanic. In the second part of the museum you were able to explore independently. It was quite interactive with various different things with the kind of smells, sounds and the experiences of the passengers and crew that boarded onto Titanic on that fateful journey. We spent just over an hour at the museum and I think that was probably enough to see everything. It's a relatively small museum, so I don't think you would really spend that much time there. We really enjoyed our visit and, like I say, it meant that we could do some other things in the day, especially by getting there early and pre-booking, which I would really recommend. At the end of the tour you found out the fate of your passenger or crew member. After we left the Titanic Museum, we went to find the play park that Milo had found earlier on. We had a great view of where the ships docked from there. If you could give this video a big thumbs up, we'd really appreciate it.
So just a few minutes up from the port is the tourist information. Jen and Milo have just gone in to find a map. The rain seems to be coming a bit harder now as well. So I think we'll try and find somewhere to have a coffee and something to eat.
The painted facade of this building was really quite impressive. When I got home I did have a look to see if I could find out anything about what this building was, but I wasn't able to find anything. If you happen to know anything about the history of this building, perhaps you could let me know in the comments.
We decided to scale the great big hill up to have a look in the cathedral and see what if we can find a coffee shop. So we're going to head over the road and have a look in the cathedral.
As we hadn't planned on visiting the cathedral, we arrived at about 10:30, which was during a mass, so it's well worth checking on their website to see what times masses are, as they may change. Didn't want to intrude whilst the service was in progress, so we just took a look from the back of the cathedral. This cathedral is the Roman Catholic Cathedral of St Colman. Construction of the cathedral commenced in 1868, but it took a very long time to build and wasn't actually finished until 1919. The cathedral comprises a carillon, which I had to look up to see what it is, but it's actually a percussion instrument that is played with a keyboard and foot pedals. It's the only one that exists in Ireland and it has 49 bells, which is the most bells of any carillon anywhere within the British Isles.
So we're going to carry on down from the cathedral now and get on the ferry to go across to Spike Island. Unfortunately it has stopped raining a bit, so it's a bit more pleasant. It was that kind of drizzly rain as well that I always think of for Ireland. We booked our ticket to Spike Island in advance just because we thought possibly it would be busy with a cruise being in. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth booking in advance. I guess the only disadvantage is you don't know what the weather's going to be like. They said that the boarding would start about 10 minutes prior to the departure. So we're going to go and wait in the queue. You get a good view of Caribbean Princess from here. So you can tell, I guess, how easy it was to get from the ship into Cobh itself. I can see people up on the Titanic Museum at the moment. They're just going to board the boat now to head across to Spike Island. Should only take us about 7 minutes.
It's fair to say that Spike Island has had a varied history over the last 1300 years, having been a monastery, a fortress, a prison and an army and navy base. We wanted to come here to see what life must have been like on Ireland's version of Alcatraz.
We've got the option here of whether we want to go on a guided tour or not, so I think we're definitely going to do the tour. It's quite steep going up here, so our guide is going to have a stop halfway up the hill for people to recover a little bit. Certainly plenty of signs here with the previous past, with these great big prison fences. It's quite interesting. Our guide was telling us about some people who did manage to escape over the years. The guide was just saying that the prison itself here closed in 2004, so 20 years ago, when the Irish government couldn't afford to run Spike Island as a prison anymore. Sounds pretty brutal. She was talking about prisoners being locked in their cells with no light at all for 23.5 hours a day. And then the half hour that they were allowed out, they had to have a black bag put over their head so they wouldn't have seen daylight for years and years, which is pretty brutal, isn't it, really? But interesting history. We're also saying that the prison, the fort itself is the same size as Alcatraz. So that's just the fort in itself. So the island overall is a lot bigger. They have this digital story trail. There's a QR code and you can download the app for it. I don't think we'll be doing that today because Milo mostly just wants to find the park. It just would be good, if you're interested, it would be good to download the app before you come. It's also a lot more sheltered now that we've come inside the fort. The tour was really good. It was interesting to sort of hear about the history. But yeah, it was very, very windy. So much nicer inside of the fort. Just outside the cafe and toilets and bits, there's a play park that Milo's found.
The cafe served really excellent coffee and had a wide selection of hot and cold foods. We had a sausage roll, it was delicious. We would definitely recommend that you make a stop there. All of the artwork that was on display was made by prisoners. The place had an eerie, macabre kind of feeling about it, and you could imagine the clanging of doors as they slammed shut.
It doesn't look like this would have been very comfortable. Here's some information about what the prisoners would have done on their day-to-day basis. The prison was finally closed. There's lots of information about a riot that happened in 1985, which I think sort of certainly paved the way for the prison to be closed down. So here are some shanks that were made by different prisoners.
We came out into the exercise yard, and like everywhere else, it was grim and foreboding.
It's quite a forbidden look about it. I think it's the grey of the buildings. This bit here is called A block, and it was in the riot and the prisoners climbed up onto the roof. They set light to the insides in several places, and they climbed up onto the roof. And, so as well as the prison, there were other residents on the island, and they all had to be protected whilst they tried to resolve the situation with the riot. Prior to it becoming a prison, it was a fort that was built by the British, and it's also been used I guess like as a army barracks for quite a long time. I was just thinking, like, so today it's quite, well, it's been rainy and it's quite windy. During the winter months, it just must be awful. Just going to walk up to this viewpoint up here. Oh, it's a good view from up here. But you wouldn't have stood an awful lot of chance, I think, if you did manage to escape. Over here is the only entrance to Cork Harbour, so this fort would have been a really important point at which to see enemy ships kind of coming into the harbour, and there's quite a battery of different guns up here that would have seen off any troublemakers. So we're just heading back from our trip to Spike Island. So we got there, probably had 3.5 hours there, which felt like was about the right amount of time. So we're just waiting to get the boat back, and then hopefully going to find somewhere to get a pint on the way back to the ship. I'll have a look when we get back and see whether there were ship tours to Spike Island in the Titanic Experience. I'd say it was very straightforward to get to, so yeah, definitely one that you could do yourself rather than doing a ship tour. After we got home, I looked into what the cost of the tour to Spike Island would have been if we'd booked through Princess, and it was $195 versus the $80 that we paid for booking direct with Spike Island. Now, I would say the main disadvantage of booking directly with Spike Island is that technically the tickets are non-refundable, and they say definitely they can't be changed within 48 hours of the departure date. So had the ship not docked in Cobh, then potentially we would have been out of those $80. We have missed port insurance, which personally I always really recommend. We've claimed on it many times, and that does kind of mitigate against that risk a bit. But it depends on your attitude to risk. But I genuinely don't think that the Princess tour was any different to what we would have done by booking directly with Spike Island. Come along to Conwy O'Doolan's, just a little bit up from the ship, and I'm having the obligatory pint of Guinness. Slanging. No, you can't beat it.
On our way back to the ship, we made a brief stop at the Cobh Heritage Centre, which is right next to where the ship docks. There was a cafe that looked really nice. You could also buy souvenirs, and there were 2 historical tours, the Queenstown story and Cobh cultural tours, but we decided to make our way back to the ship after a brilliant day in Cobh.